My boss had never called me into his office without warning before, and he never seemed to be afraid of anything. But that morning, when he locked the door behind me and pressed a sealed envelope into my hand, his eyes were wide with genuine fear. He leaned in close and whispered, "Don't open this in here. Go home. Pack a bag. Take your daughter. You have 24 hours." Then he turned his back to me as if he couldn't say another word. I froze, clutching the envelope. I was trying to figure out if this was some kind of elaborate situation or test. But the way his voice had cracked convinced me this was real. Something serious had happened, something that had already put my life at risk. And the man who I thought barely noticed my existence was suddenly trying to save me. Before I tell you what was inside that envelope, you need to understand that once you hear what happened next, you might start questioning the people you trust the most. My name is Maya Richardson. I'm a 29-year-old single mother living in a small apartment on the west side of Detroit with my daughter Jasmine. She's 7 years old, brilliant and imaginative, always drawing little pictures of the two of us holding hands. She is the center of my world, the reason I wake up every morning and fight through every challenge. Life hasn't been easy for us. Jasmine's father left when she was still very young, saying he wasn't ready for fatherhood. Since then, I juggled 3 jobs, countless night shifts, and endless moments of exhaustion just to keep a roof over our heads. Things finally started to feel stable when I landed a full-time position as an administrative coordinator at Apex Capital Holdings, a private investment firm in the heart of downtown Detroit. The work was intense, the expectations were high, and my boss, Marcus Bennett, was known for his demanding professional approach, but I didn't mind the pressure. It paid well enough for me to send Jasmine to a great charter school, and I was proud that I had earned it with my own hard work. No charity, no luck needed. That morning started like any other. I woke up before dawn, braided Jasmine's hair, and slipped a little note into her lunchbox, like I always did. She asked if we could stop for pancakes this weekend, and I promised her we would. I had no idea that in a matter of hours, everything would change. The bus ride into work was packed. People were half awake, scrolling on their phones, sipping coffee, mumbling about meetings. I remember looking up at the city skyline as we approached downtown and thinking, maybe life is finally getting normal. Maybe our struggles are finally behind us. That peaceful thought would be the last one I had for a long time. When I got to the office, something felt off. It was too quiet. Normally, the reception area buzzed with greetings and phone calls, but today, everyone spoke in whispers. I even noticed 2 men in sharp suits I'd never seen before, standing outside the executive elevators, watching everyone who passed. I tried to ignore it and headed to my desk. It was 9:14 in the morning, exactly. My desk phone rang. It was my boss's assistant. Her voice was tense. "Maya, Mr. Bennett needs to see you immediately." Before I could ask why, the line went dead. My chest tightened as I walked down the long hallway toward his office. I told myself it was probably about the quarterly reports or an upcoming audit. I had no reason to be afraid. I hadn't done anything wrong. But the moment I stepped into his office, everything shifted. Mr. Bennett was standing by the window, his back to me, his shoulders rigid. He didn't greet me. He didn't even turn around at first. Finally, he looked at me and I saw it. Real fear. His voice came out low and urgent. "Lock the door, Maya." He reached into his desk drawer, pulled out a sealed envelope, and pushed it across the table toward me. My name was written on it in thick black ink. He looked me straight in the eye and said, "No matter what happens today, do not panic, but you must do exactly as I say." In that moment, I understood this wasn't about work. This was about survival. I held the envelope in my shaking hand as I left the building, every breath tight in my chest. The cold air hit my face, but it did nothing to clear the fog of confusion in my mind. My boss, a man known for showing zero emotion, looked genuinely afraid when he handed it to me. His words kept replaying. "Go home. Pack a bag. You have 24 hours." I didn't know if I was in danger or if someone was targeting my daughter, Jasmine. Just that thought made me grip the envelope tighter. I rushed through the crowded streets, desperate to get home. The glance of every stranger felt like a potential threat. I locked the apartment door behind me, double-checking it. Then I stood in the middle of the living room, clutching the envelope. My heartbeat pounded in my ears as I slid my finger under the seal and tore it open. Inside were three things. First, a one-way flight ticket to Memphis, Tennessee, departing at 7:45 that night. Second, a basic phone with a single number saved under the name "Call This Only." And third, a photograph of my daughter Jasmine standing outside her school, taken that very morning. My blood ran cold. I had been at work when that photo was taken. Someone had been watching her. There was also a handwritten note. The ink was slightly smeared as if it had been written in a rush. They know what you saw. Do exactly as instructed. If you remain in Detroit past midnight, they will come for you and Jasmine. Trust no one. You are being watched. The phone slipped from my hand and fell onto the couch. My legs felt weak. What had I seen? I couldn't think of anything unusual. I'd been working on financial transfer documents, just numbers, spreadsheets, and client accounts. Nothing that seemed particularly sensitive, but if this was connected to Jasmine, I couldn't lose a second. I went to her school immediately, keeping my head down, scanning every passing car. When I arrived, Jasmine was sitting in her classroom, happily coloring with her friends. Just seeing her small, innocent face eased the panic inside me. But only for a moment. I pulled her out early, telling her we were going on a surprise trip. She clapped with excitement and asked if it was for ice cream. I forced a smile and told her she'd find out soon. On the way home, I noticed a black SUV in the rearview mirror. It was several cars back, but every time I changed lanes, it seemed to follow. My heart beat faster. I didn't say anything to Jasmine so as not to scare her, but I took a different exit and looped around to another road. When we reached our apartment, I moved fast. I told Jasmine to pack her favorite clothes and stuffed animals. She ran to her room with joy, unaware that with every item she placed into her small backpack, we were racing against time. I packed only the essentials, documents, cash, and the envelope. The phone kept drawing my attention, pulsing with urgency. I powered it on. Immediately, a message popped up on the screen. Do not call until you reach the airport. Just then, my regular phone vibrated. It was an unknown number. I hesitated before answering. A calm female voice said, "They are outside your building. Do not open the blinds. Leave through the back entrance. Take only one bag each. Tell absolutely no one. If you want your daughter safe, follow instructions." Before I could ask who this was, the call ended. I stood still for a moment, the fear hitting me so hard I had to grip the countertop to steady myself. This wasn't paranoia. This was serious. We were being watched at this very moment. I turned calmly to Jasmine and said, "Sweetie, we're going to use the back door, okay? It's part of the surprise adventure." She giggled, thinking it was a game. I led her quietly down the back staircase. Every creak of the old wooden steps made my heart leap. The building's rear exit opened onto an alley that led to a side street where my car was parked. I held Jasmine's hand tightly as we quickly moved toward the car. As I buckled her into her car seat, I heard something concerning. A man's voice, faint but clear from somewhere above us, speaking into a radio. I could make out a few words. "Target has moved. They have the girl." Panic surged, but it also ignited a spark of determination. If my boss risked everything to warn me, then the danger was real, and I couldn't afford to doubt him. I slid into the driver's seat, started the engine, and pulled away as calmly as I could. I didn't know what awaited me in Memphis, or who had sent that woman's voice over the phone. The only thing I knew was this: someone was trying to protect us, and someone else was searching for us. And the reason for all of it was buried somewhere in those financial documents, something so significant, so serious that my ordinary life had just become a race for survival. The plane's wheels lifted off the runway, and for the first time in hours, I exhaled, not because I felt safe, but because there was no turning back. I watched Detroit shrink beneath the clouds and held Jasmine's hand. She rested her head on my arm and drifted off to sleep, unaware that our entire life had just been changed. As the engines roared, I ran everything through my head again. My boss's frightened eyes, the photograph of Jasmine taken without my knowledge, and the unknown voice warning me that our building was being watched. Whatever this was, it went far beyond my job. It was bigger than financial issues or corporate problems. It was personal, and it was serious. When we landed in Memphis, Tennessee, the air was crisp and cold. The airport was small, surrounded by towering snow-dusted mountains. People moved at a slower pace than in Detroit, talking quietly, drinking coffee. It almost felt peaceful, too peaceful for what I had just escaped. I pulled the phone from my pocket, turned it on, and dialed the only number saved in it. The phone rang once. A man's voice answered, "Exit the airport immediately. A black truck will pull up. Get in. Do not speak until I tell you to." Then he hung up without another word. I grabbed our bags and hurried Jasmine outside. Within seconds, a black pickup truck approached the curb. The driver, a capable-looking man in his mid-40s with sharp eyes and a face that had seen some difficult years, rolled down the window. "Maya Richardson," he said in a tone that was firm but not unkind. "Get in." Every instinct told me to shield Jasmine at all costs. I studied his face. He wasn't hiding behind sunglasses. His hands were steady on the wheel. His eyes were alert. They looked less like a threat and more like protection. I made a choice. I ushered Jasmine into the back seat and climbed into the passenger seat. "My name is Darius Cole," he said once we were on the road. "Your boss, Marcus Bennett, was my partner in a federal task force. 3 years ago, we uncovered a network using private financial firms like Apex Capital to move money for international groups. When Marcus realized the network was operating within his own firm, he tried to expose it. The people behind it found out. They went after his wife. They've been after him ever since." I stared at him in shock. "Why me? I'm just an employee. I don't know anything." Darius looked straight at me. "That's where you're wrong. 2 days ago, you processed a transfer request for a dormant account. When you flagged an irregularity, you unknowingly discovered the account they've been using to hide millions. They saw the log. They know you accessed it. That makes you a liability." My stomach sank. I remembered the moment clearly. I had seen an account with no activity for years suddenly receive a $20 million wire transfer from a foreign source. I'd asked my department head for clarification, and she'd told me to approve it and keep quiet. I never imagined that simple action would change my life completely. I felt anger rising, fighting past the fear. "So they're doing all this because they think I know something?" Darius shook his head. "It's not that they think it. They're sure you saw enough to expose them. They don't take chances." The truck turned off the main road, heading up into the mountains. As pine trees closed in around us, Darius continued, "Marcus knew they were watching you. He also knew that if he made any direct move, they'd go after you and your daughter. So he did the only thing he could. He used himself as a distraction to buy you time." The weight of his words hit me hard. My intimidating, distant boss, who I thought barely knew I existed, had risked everything to protect me. Darius stopped the truck next to an isolated cabin hidden in the trees. Smoke drifted from the chimney. It looked like a place untouched by the world, a safe house. He shut off the engine and looked at me seriously. "You have 2 choices. You can disappear with your daughter into the Federal Witness Protection Program, change your identities, and never look back. Or you can join us, expose this network, and make sure they never hurt another family. But understand the cost. If you choose to fight, there's no guarantee you'll ever return to your old life." I glanced at Jasmine in the rearview mirror. She was already awake, clutching her backpack, eyes wide with wonder at the scenery outside the window. She had no idea that in the next few seconds I would make a decision that would determine the rest of our lives. I turned back to Darius, my heart pounding with fear, but also with purpose. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt the truth settle inside me. I hadn't been chosen by accident. I had been put in the one position that could bring down their entire operation. "I'm not running," I said. "I'm not letting other families go through what we're going through. Tell me what I have to do." Darius led me into the cabin, and as soon as the door shut behind us, I felt the tension in the air. This wasn't just a safe house. It was a command center. Maps covered the walls with red markers circling major cities. A long wooden table was covered in files, storage drives, and stacks of documents. At the center sat a laptop connected to advanced decryption equipment. Everything about this place told me one thing. This wasn't a hiding spot. It was a launching point. Darius motioned me to a chair. "Sit down. There's something you need to see." I sat, gripping the edge of the table as he inserted a drive into the computer. A video popped up on the screen. My breath caught when I saw who it was. It was my boss, Marcus Bennett. His hair was disheveled, and a bruise marked the side of his face. He was in a dimly lit room, speaking directly into the camera with urgency. "If you're watching this, Maya, they found me, but they didn't find you." "Good. That means Darius got to you in time." He paused, swallowing hard. "I never told you why I hired you. It wasn't because of your resume. It was because of your integrity. I've been looking for someone who still believed in doing the right thing even when no one was watching. 2 days ago, when you questioned that $20 million transfer, you confirmed what I suspected. You saw the account, you saw the name attached to it. And now they'll stop at nothing to silence you." My pulse quickened. What name? I had only seen numbers on the document, not a name. Marcus must have seen the confusion on my face through the screen because he continued, "The account belongs to Senator Lawrence Daniels." The moment he said the name, everything clicked into place. Senator Daniels wasn't just a politician. He was one of the most powerful figures in the country, known for his political influence and his constant appearances on TV advocating for economic reform. Suddenly, his vague policies and secret donor lists made disturbing sense. Marcus's voice dropped. "Daniels has been moving billions through private financial firms to fund global operations. He's behind all of it. The threats, the disappearances, it all leads back to him. And now, Maya, you are in possession of the evidence that could dismantle his entire empire." I stared at the screen, stunned. This wasn't corporate fraud. This was treason, conspiracy, and massive corruption on a level that could destroy lives, governments, and nations. On the screen, Marcus took a breath. "The files you processed are critical. Unwittingly, you've activated the final link in the chain. Darius has the rest. Together, you can connect every transaction, every shell company, every overseas account. Once the data is released, Daniels will have nowhere to hide." Suddenly, a loud noise came from outside the cabin. Then another. Darius instantly grabbed a weapon from a drawer and gestured for me to get down. The windows rattled from the impact as dark figures moved in the tree line. Jasmine cried out from the corner where she had been sitting on a blanket with her stuffed animal. I rushed to her and shielded her body with mine. Darius yelled, "They found us. Stay down." Loud sounds erupted in the silent mountain air. The cabin shuddered as the exterior walls were struck. Darius returned defensive fire through a reinforced window. 2 men dropped, but more advanced. I could see the glint of tactical helmets and night vision equipment as they emerged from the shadows. They weren't ordinary criminals. They were trained professionals, likely hired operatives. A crash sounded behind us as the back door was forced open. Darius spun around and yelled, "Get to the basement now." He fired again, providing cover as I scooped Jasmine into my arms and ran toward the trapdoor in the floor. I hesitated, not wanting to leave him, but he yelled again, "Maya, go. I'll hold them off." With shaking hands, I yanked the trapdoor open and scrambled down the ladder into a hidden bunker. It was small, cold, and dark, but secure. I held Jasmine tightly as she buried her face in my shoulder, trembling. Above us, footsteps thundered. Darius's voice roared orders. Then there were more defensive sounds. Silence followed. The seconds stretched into what felt like hours. Finally, a massive explosion shook the bunker and dust rained down from the ceiling. Jasmine whimpered in fear. Then I heard the emergency phone in the bunker begin to ring. I answered with a trembling hand. A voice spoke, calm, firm, and deeply familiar. It was Marcus. "You did good, Maya," he said, his voice strained but alive. "But this is only the beginning. They came tonight because they know we're close. Everything you need is in that bunker. The final piece is now in your hands." My heart pounded. The man I thought was gone wasn't just alive. He was still fighting. Marcus spoke again, this time with urgency. "You have 2 hours before they regroup. You have to make a choice. Hide forever or step into the light and end this." As I held my daughter in the darkness with the world above in chaos, I finally understood. I wasn't running from danger anymore. I was running toward the truth. And I wouldn't stop until every single person behind this conspiracy was brought to justice, even if it cost me everything. The bunker was silent now, save for the soft hum of the generator and the faint sound of my heart beating in my ears. Marcus's voice echoed in my mind as I held Jasmine close. 2 hours. That was all the time I had until they returned. 2 hours to decide whether I would disappear into a life built on fear and shadows or rise up and expose the men who had destroyed so many lives. I stood up and walked further into the bunker where a long metal desk was lined with files, storage drives, and documents sealed with government insignias. Every piece of evidence was meticulously labeled, linking Senator Lawrence Daniels and a network of high-ranking officials to offshore accounts and covert operations that had resulted in serious harm to countless innocent people. Some of the victims were whistleblowers. Others were family members targeted just for being too close to the truth. Darius appeared at the top of the ladder with an injury on his sleeve, but still standing. His voice was low but steady as he descended. They retreated for now. They think the explosion took us out. We have a window, but not a big one. I looked at him and said the words that had already formed inside me. I'm not running anymore. This ends today. Darius nodded once as if he already knew I would say that. He placed a secure satellite laptop in front of me and connected the final encrypted drive containing Marcus's master file. As the system booted up, an alert popped up on the screen. Press enter to begin global data release. This wasn't a simple upload. It was a chain reaction. The files were set to be replicated to every major news outlet, federal database, and international court in real time. Once started, there would be no stopping it. Names, bank transactions, audio recordings, everything would be exposed to the world. With Jasmine watching silently, eyes wide with innocence and trust, I hit the key. Immediately, status bars began to fill one by one. FBI connected. Interpol connected. Reuters, CNN, BBC connected. The truth that had been buried for years was now rushing across the globe in a wave of justice. When the upload completed, I felt tears well up in my eyes, not from fear, but from a sense of release. The person hiding behind wealth and power could no longer hide. Every transaction and every crime now had a name attached to it. Suddenly, the emergency phone rang again. I answered, and Marcus's voice came through, weaker now, but filled with something I'd never heard in him before. Peace. You did it, Maya. You finished what I couldn't, he said. I asked him where he was, but there was a long pause before he answered. My time is done, but yours is just beginning. The world knows the truth because of you. Protect your daughter. Live your life freely. And never forget, you were chosen not for what you knew, but for who you are. The line went dead within hours. News alerts exploded across every screen. Federal agents arrested high-ranking officials. Senator Daniels was detained on a private airstrip attempting to flee the country. Protests erupted. The public demanded justice. Global investigations opened and government agencies were forced into transparency. It was one of the biggest political takedowns in United States history, but with the victory came a price. Darius helped us relocate temporarily while security was established around us. The government offered witness protection, new identities, and a new life anywhere we wanted. For the first time in months, I slept without fear. Jasmine slept peacefully beside me, clutching her stuffed animal, unaware that her mother had just changed the course of history. Weeks passed and the world adjusted to a new reality. One morning, as I watched the sunrise over the peaceful mountain horizon, Jasmine climbed onto my lap and looked at me with her bright green eyes. "Mommy," she whispered, "are the bad guys all gone now?" I held her tight and answered, "They're gone, baby, and they are never going to hurt us again." Did you like the story, and which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you like the story, you can support me by sending super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story. With love and respect.